the Habs make another college signing as they sign college goalie Jakub Dobes to an entry-level contract. We're really excited about that. Plus, Lane Hutson gets absolutely robbed as he doesn't even make the top 3 for the Hobey Baker finalists. Anyway, we got that. Plus, Rafael Harvey-Pinard, since getting called up to the NHL, leads all rookies in goal scoring. We'll be talking about all that on this edition of Habs Digest. Hello, bonjour, ahoy, and welcome to today's news edition of Habs Digest. I'm your host, Josh Gosse, alongside my co-host, Jesse Poirier. And guys, we're now only like 30 subs away from 4,500, so if you see that button still red, just hit it now. Be one of the first 4,500 to sub to the channel. We're so close, so hopefully you guys can help us out. We're going to get into the Lane Hutson stuff in a minute, but the first thing here, Jesse, some more big news. The Habs have been going on a bit of a spree signing their college prospects, and today was no different. Kent Hughes goes out, and he signs Jakub Dobes, goalie for Ohio State, the Ohio State University Buckeyes. They signed him to a 2-year entry-level contract. 21-year-old netminder agreed to a contract, allowing him to finish the season with the Laval Rocket. I think this is pretty cool, Jesse, as we're going to take a quick look at his stats. Do you think Jakub Dobes is going to get more starts there's not much of the season left here for Laval, but do you think he'll get maybe more starts than Kaiden Primo?
I don't think he will, but they're definitely going to be battling quite a bit. And that's one reason, though, that I definitely like this signing, is this for that internal competition that we're creating with this move. And, with Kaiden up the other night, he played a good game against his father's former team, Keith, in the Philadelphia Flyers. And, he definitely showed up for that game. And I was happy because we hadn't really heard as much about Kaiden Primo. And as we know, the hype is just completely went down. We haven't done a video about him all year, Josh, and we've been covering other prospects so much. So it was nice to see him come up, albeit kind of, surprisingly, and still put up a good game and just kind of say to Habs fans, hey guys, I'm still around. I'm still in contention, to join this team in the future. I think he definitely will. But yeah, no, I'm really happy about this move with signing Jakub Dobes, as we've talked about in the channel. Great size. He's been showing up great stats over the last 3 seasons, being really consistent. A really nice, addition. So for me, this kind of feels like a future move. I still want us to get a goalie a little bit further, to being NHL ready. But I think that having Jakub Dobes and still kind of having Kaiden Primo in the pipeline is still very good for this organization down the road.
Yeah, I think you're right on with that. And Dobes is, I don't think he's going to be the new goalie savior, but you never know, right? You just never know with goalies who's going to end up being good, who's going to not end up being good. I'm going to show you guys his stats again as we're talking. A .918 save percentage, 2.31 GAA, an even better year before. And he's 21 years old and he's 6'5", 197. He's pretty agile. He was a 5th round pick. But I think, like you said, just having him as another option he has to battle with Primo in Laval, and when you have to battle for a position, your drive, your motivation to get better and better, look, I'm not going to break into this organization unless I can pass this guy. That can really, really spur development. So I think Dobes has shown that he has potential to be very good. He's 6'5", which is awesome for a goalie. And I think this competition will be great. Hopefully we can see him in a couple starts with Laval before the season is out. But on that note, as we're talking about a bit of college hockey, this is maybe the most outrageous thing I've seen all year. That's maybe an overstatement, but still I'm really upset, and I know you are too, Jesse, as the final 3, the Hobey hat trick, as Chris Peters puts it, the top 3 vote getters for Hobey Baker, or at least the 3 finalists were announced. It's Logan Cooley playing for Minnesota, Adam Fantilli playing for Michigan, and Matty Nyes playing for Minnesota as well. Cooley and Nyes are on the same line, by the way. But notice, there's no Lane Hutson. Lane Hutson, who, as you can see in this tweet, had 48 points in this season. And the only defenseman in the last 13 years to have more points was Cale Makar. And that year, Cale Makar won the Hobey Baker when he had only 1 more point than Hutson this season in more games, a lower point per game average. I'm upset. What are your thoughts on this, Jesse? To me, it's just it's unfathomable that Hutson did not make the top 3.
It's just absolutely brutal. When you just look at the statistics behind it, just makes absolutely no sense. We have Lane Hutson scoring 48 points as a defenseman, and then Matthew Nyes, and he's my only person that I have a problem with out of these top 3. It's just Lane Hutson should have replaced Matthew Nyes in that.
Yeah, I agree.
He only had that 41 points, as a forward. For me, this isn't even comparable. You have one of the best years ever as an NCAA defenseman, as a rookie on top of that, not just as a defenseman, but as a rookie defenseman, getting better stats than Brian Leetch as a rookie, just unbelievable. You then go to clinch the Hockey East championship to get your team in the Final Four, and you still don't get any love for the Hobey Baker. Like, you got to wonder, like, how much more does Lane Hutson have to do to be recognized? Because this isn't the first time now where we think that he's really getting a lot of flack, where people are really, really underestimating him.
And I don't know why. I got some hunches. I don't know if it's the size thing. He's small, therefore can't play defense, even though his defense is not that bad. There's just this bias when people see how small he is. I know there always is and always will be a bias against freshmen for this award, but at the same time, Adam Fantilli made this top 3. To be fair, he's projected to be the 2nd overall pick this year, and he is very, very good and very well deserving of being in the top 3, don't get me wrong. But this freshman bias has always existed. They look at Lane Hutson, they compare him to Matthew Knies, who, by the way, guys, is 3rd on his own line in point scoring, playing on a line with Jimmy Snuggerud and Logan Cooley. Cooley being one of the other finalists. Knies being the Toronto prospect. You gotta wonder if that plays a role. It might not. I don't think so for the NCAA voters, but at the same time, I don't get it. Like you said, Lane Hutson brought his team, kicking and screaming into the Frozen Four. He has had one of the best, offensive seasons for any defenseman in NCAA history. I don't know. Do you think that the size or just the freshman, do you think those are the main 2 things? Because I think that's probably it. But even then, I just don't see the true argument for Knies over him.
Yeah, I really don't either. And for me, it just has to be the one thing about the size, right?
Yeah.
Because we see that he's almost, he's up there with Fantilli, really. And that's going to arguably the 2nd overall pick, in this year's draft, where, Hutson fell all the way to the 2nd round in his draft year. So we're seeing there's a big discrepancy. There's not a huge difference, even though they're playing different types of players, like in the quality of the hockey player and where they're being selected. And that's really being chalked up to size once again. I think we're just in the learning curves of still kind of understanding this, but it's going to become less and less of a thing over time. But I'm sure that Lane is just used his whole life to people just really writing him off, not believing him. I'm sure he's shown a lot of scouts wrong, a lot of coaches wrong. So I think that this is just going to really serve as great motivation for him to come out and just even have even a more tremendous year. I can't wait to see what he does even next year as he develops, right? Because he just tore it up this year.
Yeah, I agree. And hey, it's Minnesota versus Boston University in the Frozen Four, so we'll be keeping an eye on that matchup. If that's 2 of the top 3 Hobey Baker finalists plus Lane Hutson going against each other. So Hutson will have something to prove. That'll definitely be a very interesting game. Final thing for today, Jesse. Just a quick thing. I don't actually have a picture for this because it was shown on the broadcast of the game yesterday. But Rafael Harvey-Pinard, since being called up to the NHL this season, is the leading goal scorer among rookies. He has 14 in that span. I think the next highest was something like 12. His chemistry, his ability to fit on any line has been nuts. He had a ton of chemistry with Suzuki. He maybe got bumped down a line here and there, but his recent play with Jake Evans and Brendan Gallagher has really spurred him once again, and he's finding that offensive touch. Brendan Gallagher was actually asked today if he could see himself playing, the Gallagher-Lavalley line long term, and Gallagher said, yeah, I think it can work. What do you think's been clicking for Harvey-Pinard this year, or do you think, is what I think, his just ability to he's almost like a chameleon. He can morph into any role you give him, and I think he can just thrive at it.
Yeah, I think it's just his hard work and his ethic and everything else. He's definitely he's graduated from Lavalley to now playing with Gallagher, and I love the idea of them being on a line together because these are 2 types of players that I really love, and they do have some skill to go along with. And I love when they can just kind of break that stereotype of just kind of being a grinder and then just kind of like a butterfly, like a caterpillar, just kind of transform into something else. This is unbelievable, Josh, that he's having the type of year that he's having, that we're having this conversation right now.
It's crazy. Out
of all rookies in his amount of time of being in the league, and what I like is like we keep saying, it's not a fluke. The more he just keeps doing this, he's shown he's actually a really good hockey player. No matter how much you don't want to believe it, he is. And it's crazy to think this player might be capable in very short time over the course of a full season of scoring 30 goals. Who thought that we'd ever talk about this? About Rafael Harvey-Pinard. That's what I love about our organization is we got a lot of really good players, But when we start having players and prospects kind of coming out of the woodwork like this and performing in the way that they are, that really stacks up our team in a nice way moving forward.
I think it's almost a breath of fresh air that these prospects getting called up are thriving as opposed to having to rot away and not being able to, or just not given the opportunity to succeed under maybe like previous management would have done. So to see Harvey-Pinard, a 7th-round pick, come up and do what he's been doing is amazing. But not only him, guys like Xhekaj too, Kovacevic, a waiver claim, they're put in positions to say, hey, prove yourself, and it seems like the culture in Montreal is really spurring that growth. So amazing from Harvey-Pinard, like you said, on over a 30-goal pace over a full season. We'll see what he can do next year, and for sure it'll be a diminished role as many of the Habs come back, but I still have high hopes for him, and I sure hope he can carve out his role long term. But that'll do it for this news edition of Habs Digest. If you enjoyed, leave a like, comment, subscribe to the channel. Help us hit 5,000 subs. We're almost there, and we really appreciate all the support. I'm Josh Goss for my co-host, Jesse Poirier. We'll catch you in the next one.